على عهدي على ديني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي أنا أفديهم أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني.
هنالك مقولة أو حكمة يتقاسمها العرب والفرنسيين، والتي يقول فيها العرب أن تأتي خير من أن لا تأتي. في المقابل الفرنسيون يقولون plus tard mieux que jamais، أي أن الإنسان إذا ذهب في طريق خطأ وعاد أحسن من أن لم يعد. إذا قدم مساعدة واعتذر أحسن من أن لم يقدم ولم يعتذر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، وأنتم تشاهدون قناة تذكرة، هذه القناة التي غالبا ما أتطرق من خلالها إلى مواضيع حارقة لأولئك الذين يعيشون في الغرب كأوروبا وأمريكا وغيرها من البلدان. ولكن في هذا اليوم سوف لن أكون مغردا خارج السرب، سوف أتكلم عن فلسطين وأقدم شيئا ما حتى نبعث الأمل في أنفسنا، أي أنه بعد العسر هناك اليسر إن شاء الله. أيها الإخوة، هذه القناة هي للإصلاح، فلا تنسوا الاشتراك في هذه القناة، لربما نصلح حال ابن لأحد الإخوة فتكونوا قد شاركتم معنا. إذن من هؤلاء الذين عادوا أدراجهم وأتوا وأحسن من أن لم يأتوا، الرئيس الامريكي ال36 جيمي كارتر، هذا الذي كان ينظر للسلام وكان هو مؤسس لتلك المعاهدة، معاهدة كامب ديفيد التي كانت بين بيغن وأنور السادات الرئيس المصري. وبعد أن مرت السنين وبعد أن مر بامتحان نفسي داخله عاد أدراجه، فاتجه إلى الكنيسة وصوب الأمور وصار له رأي آخر عن فلسطين وعن السلم بين اليهود والفلسطينيين. فلنستمع إلى هذا الرجل الرئيس السادس والثلاثين للولايات المتحدة الأمريكية جيمي كارتر. تفضلوا.
Places that kill women and children not to strike back? I mean, is there any alternative?
There has to be some striking back, but I wrote another book called Talking Peace, and I describe the fact that every conflict, whether it's between a husband and a wife, or father and a son, or students on a campus, or ultimately between two nations, or between Israelis and Palestinians, is caused by the same thing. It's an element of misunderstanding and animosity and hatred and even violence that has to be recognized as not fruitful. Neither side can prevail. And then a stepping back and trusting some intermediary, if necessary, to respect one another long enough to seek peace. And then during the mediation process, which I used at Camp David and still use, every time either side makes a concession, they have to be convinced that what they gain is greater than what they're giving up. And at the end, both sides have to feel that they have won. This was a case with the treaty that still exists. But the biggest step is for the two antagonists who despise each other and who can justify violence, has to say, well, violence is not going to prevail, which takes a lot of courage, a lot of political courage. And then to say, let's take a chance on peace. And this means reversing previous commitments and even the previous character. For instance, Menachem Begin, who I think was a hero at Camp David.
More so than Saddam?
I think so. I think Begin gave up more and yielded more changes in his previous commitment because he had been
But he got something very important. He got a peace treaty with an Arab nation.
With the Arab nation.
With the Arab
who had
nation,
been
right.
to war four
Right.
times in the previous 25 years before I got involved in it. But Begin had been what the world considered to be a terrorist. He was the head of an organization called Irgun.
Right.
And they had deliberately set off a bomb in the King David Hotel that killed 96 innocent people who were just guests in the hotel. And ultimately, he was the one that went to Camp David and said, okay, we will stop our settlements and we will withdraw our military and political forces from the West Bank and Gaza. We'll honor United Nations resolutions in order to get peace.
What would be the agreement that you would make?
The same thing as the official policy of the United States and the and the International
United Nations
Quartet
and the Arab Initiative from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So everybody knows essentially what it's going to be.
Exactly. That Israel would withdraw to the 67 borders, pre-67 borders, with some modifications negotiated, maybe swap 2% of the land, to the Palestinians.
Trade land here for land for there, right. In order to give them some of the settlements around Jerusalem.
And one thing that I wouldn't do that the Arab leaders have demanded is the right of Palestinians to return to Israel. I think that the right of return ought just to apply to Palestinians coming back into Palestine.
Yeah, so they couldn't go into what is now Israel, but they go.
That's right.
They only go back into.
Except in special cases where the Israeli government approved.
Would the Palestinians accept that? You think that Yasser Arafat would have accepted that?
I think Arafat would probably have accepted it.
What do you think the public perception is of how you view? I mean, this is a book called Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. I've read what some people have said, and they believe that you have, to use a word some others use, that you are more sympathetic to the Palestinian side than the Israeli side. Do you understand that criticism? And how do you?
I don't agree with it at all. Charlie, I would say that in the last 30 years of my life, if I listed all of the foreign policy goals that I would like to have achieved, bringing peace, permanent peace to Israel would be at the top of my list. I've devoted more of my time, more of my study, more of my effort to bring peace to Israel, and with a commensurate peace to their neighbors than any other single subject. And the reason for writing this book is really basically to bring peace, a permanent peace to Israel within their own legal borders, living side by side with a Palestinian state in harmony with one another.
You're in favor of a two-state solution?
Absolutely.
Why do you say peace, not apartheid?
Well, I don't say just that. You left out the first word.
Palestine.
Well, Palestine distinguishes the word apartheid from Israel. I don't allege in any way that within the nation of Israel, there's any element of apartheid. In the occupied territories, there is a profoundly disturbing proof of apartheid in its worst form. And I would say it's much more damaging in some ways to the Palestinians under the subjection of domination of Israel, even than the black people suffered in South Africa. So I use the word advisedly of apartheid in Palestine. I also use two other words in there. Peace is what I prefer, not apartheid. And I believe that